Welcome to our webinar where we're going to talk about the wonderful opportunity for you to join Dr. Lorraine Von Eeden in Morocco for a nurse practitioner's journey. I am Nicola Balmain, and I warmly welcome you to this conversation this evening, this late afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from across the country today. I do see that many of you are still joining us, and we have a wonderful number of people that have created interest and have said that they're going to join us this afternoon. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. First of all, we want your questions. So while Lorraine and I are talking and we're presenting some information to you, and we do have obviously some planned resources to share, we do want your questions. So either drop those in the chat or in the Q&A section. And if we don't get to those during the course of our presentation and what we share with you, then we will have time at the end for questions. And as we're chatting, feel free to send those little emojis up and let Lorraine and I know if what we're talking about resonates with you. Of course, interaction is always warmly welcomed, but we do plan on this being about an hour long, so about 45 minutes, with some questions at the end. So without further ado, let me introduce myself and my co-host. If I can, let's see. There we go. So I'm Nicola Balmain, the founder of Nanda Journeys, and I welcome you all this evening. Welcome to the Nanda family. And I would like to introduce not only your journey host, but our friend here at Nanda Journeys, Dr. Lorraine Von Eeden. So welcome, Lorraine. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Lorraine, tell us a little bit about how you came to Nanda Journeys, because you have a slightly different journey to us at Nanda Journeys and some of our other leaders. So share with everybody how we know each other.
So I believe it was 2018 or 2019. It was before the pandemic, just before. 2018. Colleague of mine from Colombia mentioned this tour to India. And it piqued my interest, of course. I'd been to India once before, but it seemed very exciting. Turns out that the tour leader at that time was one of the former deans of Columbia University School of Nursing, and I happened to be an alum of the school. So I joined, and I went to India. We visited three cities in the northern part of India, and it was a very beautiful tour. And just to sort of summarize, it was primarily healthcare professionals. We visited several sites where we interfaced with healthcare practitioners in India. So we learned a bit about their culture. We meaning the US contingent, we did some small presentations. So it was really beautiful. In addition to that, of course, we did sightseeing. We traveled, like I said, there were 3 different cities that we traveled through. And everything was beautifully planned. Accommodations were beautiful. Transportation was very seamless. I think the group was about 15, more or less. So it was a nice size, nice enough for us to be able to bond. We were all in like one bus type thing. And I was very impressed after that. And I thought to myself, I would love to do this at some point.
And here we are.
To Nicola, but then of course the pandemic happened, travel stopped, and that was the end of that. But once we started to open up and travel started again, I reached out to Nicola and said, hey, I would like to try to be a tour leader for a group. And so here we are with Morocco.
And that's great. And during that time, you were the president for the association out there in New York for the Nurse Practitioners Association. So I think that time kind of lent itself perfectly to bring us to this point today where we have this opportunity to share with everybody. And you have some additional resources and insights, given that role that you've had as well with the association.
True.
So let me tell you, everybody, a little bit about Nanda Journeys. For those of you that are joining us, I think some of you do know a little bit about us, and some of you rather, I think this is all brand new. So first and foremost, welcome. I have been with Nanda Journeys for 10 years. I started Nanda Journeys 10 years ago after a lifelong career and passion in the travel industry. I started out in the United Kingdom. I came to the United States, and then I felt very drawn to educational travel. So I worked in educational career enrichment travel for a long time until the company I was working for unfortunately closed in 2015. So that's when we started Nanda Journeys, and it's been a wonderful 10 years. And it's been really fabulous for me to lean into the things that I'm really passionate about, which is purposeful immersion experiences. And we'll share a little bit about what that means to us. So the Nanda Way is something that people like Lorraine and your guides and delegates that have traveled with us has naturally kind of curated for us. It wasn't a long conversation or a marketing campaign or anything like that. Our travelers created this kind of ethos. But what does the Nanda Way mean? It really means that everything from this conversation we're having with you tonight to the experiences that you have, they're authentic, immersive, they're thoughtfully curated, they have a good impact on the local community. So we contract our services with socially responsible guides, restaurants. We try and support women's cooperatives and education programs. So as we're building your experience for you to enjoy, we're hoping that that experience is going to be very immersive and very purposeful for you and impactful for you. And of course, educational. This is a career enrichment program that we're talking to you about tonight.
Sure.
So a little bit about our programs and what we include. Lorraine's going to talk a little bit, and Lorraine, this will be, I think, a great opportunity to share with everybody your intent for the CEUs for this program. They can't be applied for just yet because of the process, but maybe share a little bit about what that looks like for everybody.
So the intention is to apply for CEU credits through the AANP, the American Association of Nurse Practitioners. Some of you might be familiar with the process. I have been, so in my role as educational chair for the Nurse Practitioner Association Region 5, I have actually been involved in credit application for our annual teaching days. So I've been doing that for a few years, so I'm pretty familiar with the process. It is a lengthy process. The reason that we're not able to say that we have credits is because there is a timeline. We cannot do the application. The earliest time frame that the application to AANP can go in is 90 days before the actual event.
Mm-hmm.
So this event is October 31st. So we have to backtrack 3 months prior, and that's when I can actually put the application together.
Great.
So that is why the language is such that we are applying for. There's no way under the sun to get it
done earlier, but we've done educational programs with credits before. You've done educational programs with credits before. So our intent and our agenda is leaning towards 8 to 10 credits based on what we are anticipating our professional programming is going to be.
It depends on how many people we're interacting with, interfacing with, and what we can bring to the table in terms of our presentations, because that is one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Also.
That's great. And everything else in terms of the experience, we have included a program that will include your flights from the New York City area airport or another airport of your choosing that we can assist you with. And from the minute you land to the moment you leave, you will have a local person in addition to Lorraine that will be your guide, your expert, your Moroccan friend for the entire time that you're going to be in Morocco. And you'll be joined along the way by additional experts, depending on which area of the country we're in and what topics we're focused on. We have some wonderful 4 and 5 star hotel accommodations planned for you. And we have a lot of inclusions, including private transportation. Lorraine mentioned being with your peers in the same kind of motor coach. It allows for continued learning and conversation during bus rides and all of those wonderful things. And we take care of all of the transfers from the airport and your baggage handling as well. So we have a fully inclusive program planned for you. You don't have to worry about anything. Just turn up is what we like to say.
Yep. Show up. And great for networking and just having us all learn more about each other.
Yeah, I think the peer networking is twofold. It's both the peers that you're traveling with and also the peers that you're meeting in country, and those relationships, as we'll chat about here in a little while, they last a really long time. But let's tell everybody a little bit more about you, Lorraine. For those of the people that are joining us this evening that don't know you, you have been the president of the Practitioner Association in New York, Region 5. And
Mhm.
you studied at Columbia and Pace, and you're in pediatric nurse practitioner now. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're passionate about and why you want to travel with these fabulous people.
Okie dokie. So like Nicholas said, and as you can read here, I was born in Guyana, which is in South America, um, and left there as a teen, came here, and so did all of my adult life is basically been in New York. Um, my initial area of nurse practitioner journey at Columbia, I became a pediatric nurse practitioner. And so I was in that role for many years. Um, I also, let me see, I think 12 years ago I did my doctorate at Pace,
Uh-huh,
and the doctorate was in family. So I'm, double board certified as an FNP and a PNP.
uh-huh.
And so that added to my repertoire. So I also deal with adults and the older population. Um, I have a passion for traveling. I love and I love to see the world, and I try to do it as best as I can. One thing that I've also done quite a bit is medical missions.
Mhm,
So I did several medical missions going back to Guyana, which is my hometown, my home country. Um, and have also done, let me see, I did a mission to in Brazil last year in 24 and in 23 an educational mission in Cuba.
mm,
But
wonderful.
most of the missions, the medical missions that I've done have been in Guyana. So those medical missions is basically as a medical volunteer providing care to the populace. Um, so this particular journey, Nanda journey, is more of an educational, cultural. We're not going to be doing any hands-on
Right.
care, but
Hmm.
this is the educational perspective. And like she says here, we're trying to apply for credits. I'm not sure if we're going to get to 10. I'm more thinking 6 to 8 because AANP has very specific guidelines in terms of what they need. Um, and this entire trip is not just the educational portion because we are encouraging you to bring friends and family along. And so that means that we're going to do a lot of cultural interaction with people and sightseeing and just learning more about Moroccan culture.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity for the career enrichment, as you say, is a little bit different than the mission type programs.
Yeah.
So this is really hands-on peer engagement. So we're not hands-on as in the physical sense, but we're really connecting with your peers from across the United States and Morocco. Networking opportunities. I know in your previous trips to India, there definitely were some connections that were made where people develop programs together, or there were additional learning opportunities between universities. So
It
we never
was.
know what's going to blossom, right, from
Right.
these kind of
Right.
conversations.
Yeah. Because like I said, we had several of us had did small presentations to our medical counterparts, and they in turn shared what they were doing with us.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
uh,
great. And also for those of you that might be self-employed or your employer has an opportunity for you to apply for some grant funding for your continuing professional development, expenses, may be deductible as a reasonable and necessary business expense, because our focus for you as a professional member joining is that career enrichment. And we'll talk about those opportunities and how long we're going to be spending each day doing professional development.
Mhm.
So why this journey matters to nurse practitioners. And Lorraine, you and I have had a few conversations both in developing the professional purpose statement, and we've had many, many months of design conversations and what we want to achieve. But talk to us a little bit about, having participated as a delegate and now looking at it from the lens of a leader. We've talked about the CEU credits, but there are so many other things. Cultural competency is something that's talked about in healthcare and education and just life in general, given the diversity of our world and our communities. Why is it important to travel and understand that from your perspective as a nurse practitioner?
So, one of the key phrases that we all know about and we read about it and it's sort of driven into our head is culturally competent care.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody hears that. Every NP knows that. What
Mm-hmm.
does that really mean? It's more than just doing. It is
Mm-hmm.
doing for your patient with a mindset of this patient has a particular culture. And as everybody knows, your culture is very integral to your health.
Mm-hmm.
How you see things, how you view things, what you're going to take from that practitioner who is telling you, okay, I want you to do this, this, and this. All of your cultural norms are part of that. And so for us, in terms of visiting Morocco or any other part of the world, it's an opportunity for us to understand more about the culture of the populace. Um, so we're going to try on this trip to get a better understanding of the infrastructure of healthcare in Morocco. Um, People travel. There are people there, and New York and the United States. Many people travel to this country. So we are basically a melting pot of so many cultures.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it behooves us to learn more, because what we learn there in Morocco, what hopefully we'll learn, we can bring it back here. We can utilize it in our own population. There's going to be a time when you'll meet somebody who is the same religion as maybe the
Mm-hmm.
people in Morocco. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, I remember that. I remember when I went there and they talked about this.
Yeah.
um, and it's very important. Um, Morocco, like many other countries, I don't know if I should sort of move ahead, but sort of has a two-tier, it's public and private systems,
Mm-hmm.
health systems. Usually, the more private healthcare systems tend to be reserved a little bit more for people who can afford it,
Mm-hmm.
and in areas that are more urban. More in the rural areas where you have a lot of the people living, there are many challenges. Access to healthcare is not the same. There are less medical providers. There's a population that has a higher illiteracy rate,
Mm-hmm.
and also population that really holds on to their traditional
Yeah.
religious customs. And so
Mm-hmm.
that all interfaces with healthcare delivery and how it's received. So
Yeah,
it's
I
really
think the
important.
urban and rural comparisons are the same here as the United States, because the challenges are the
Yes,
same here.
it is.
How can we open up healthcare to those living in a rural population, maybe do not have the same access, but also don't have the same trust for traditional medicine? I think that's something that's
That
important
is
too.
that is true.
And I think, the personal growth that you get from a journey like this, it's very personal, but it's very group centric too. So there's communal learning, there's individual learning, there's individual growth, and all of those things we see throughout the course of the program. So let's get into a little bit about where we're going and what are we going to do in Morocco and when are we going. So we would love for you to join Lorraine on the
Yes.
31st of October to November 9th. So we have an 8-night, 10-day program planned for you. We've included a total of 16 meals in this program. So there are 5 lunches, 3 dinners, and then, of course, breakfast daily at your hotel. We've purposefully left some of those evening meals because we are going to be in 3 different specific locations. So whilst we'll dine together on 3 occasions, there'll be an opportunity for you to branch out either as a group. Sometimes you will navigate as a group, sometimes individually. Obviously, the food in Morocco is something that is not to be missed, and it's very, very diverse, both in its culture and its ingredients. You know, it's not too far from Spain, you know, the European continent, and you have the African continent, and it's just a melting pot of culture. So food is going to be an important piece of this journey. We'll depart from Morocco, and then we will fly into Casablanca. So you will fly into Casablanca and take a short journey, about an hour, to Rabat, where we'll spend 3 nights in Rabat before going inland. So you're on the Atlantic coast here in Rabat. We'll go inland to Fez for 2 nights, then on to Marrakesh for 3 nights, where we'll fly back home to the United States on day 10.
And so in Rabat, just go back to the map.
Sure.
So if you can see, Casablanca and Rabat are what's known as part of the Atlantic coast.
Yep.
And that is going to be more of our urban type area.
Yes.
As opposed to now when we go inland to Fez and probably to Marrakesh, I guess.
And in between Fez and Marrakesh, yes, when we chat about that as well, that's
rural.
It's very rural, yes.
So
and that's the Berber kind of mountainous, you know, very different landscape. So you have your coastal experience, and then you have your inland experience on this journey. So we'll depart from the USA, and the group airport is designated as the New York City area airport. It may be JFK, it may be New York. But for those of you that might be joining us from across the United States, we're here to support you with either connecting into New York or alternate flight plans if you want to try a different airline or from a different location.
So you have the flexibility of doing that.
Absolutely. Yes. So on arrival in Casablanca, your guide will meet you. So this will be the guide that will be with you for the entire journey. So they become a very integral part of your experience, as do your bus drivers. So we will arrive into Casablanca airport, take about an hour's drive, and check into your hotel, which is a 5-star Sofitel hotel. It's a beautiful luxury urban oasis is how I call it. So it is a 9-hectare Andalusian garden, right? So for those of you that love flora and fauna, it's a beautiful garden setting with a pool and a spa, and it's a beautiful place to relax. We are coastal here in this area where we're staying in Rabat. So it's a beautiful place to stay. And we'll organize a welcome dinner, which is super critical, I think. Is really critical to open up. Everybody maybe doesn't know each other, so this is a great opportunity for everybody to get to know each other over dinner, familiarize yourself with the guide, and they'll orientate you to Morocco, the traditions, the culture, and really start to really feel at home in this beautiful country. So day 3 is an exploration of cultural Casablanca and Rabat. You remember we were just an hour away from Casablanca, but we want to stay in Rabat for that rich, it's the capital. We want to be in Rabat to have all of the wonderful professional engagements that we have planned for you. But let's set our scene a little bit here and get orientated to Morocco, right? So there's some wonderful things we do not want you to miss. We have great professional content planned for you, but today is all about really understanding the iconic area of Casablanca in the morning. So you're going to go to the Hassan Mosque. So this mosque is huge, number one. It's the tallest minaret in the world. And it's one of only a few mosques that's really open to non-Muslims. So you are able to go inside this particular mosque, which is not the case for mosques in other parts of the world. For those of you from the New York East Coast area, this mosque can hold more people than the MetLife Stadium. So it's huge.
Yeah, it is huge.
Yeah, it has, it has capacity inside for 25,000 people, and the roof can open up so you can have, skyward looking prayer, but then the
Mm,
courtyard can hold an additional 80,000 people. So
wow.
the picture here does not really give credit to the
Right.
size and magnitude of this beautiful building with the marble and with the mosaic artwork and everything. So it's very important and absolutely critical for you to see on your visit to Casablanca.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, you'll return to Rabat after lunch in a local restaurant, and you'll visit a mausoleum honoring the great king, Mohammed. So King Mohammed was critical in the independence against France. So there's a lot of history, culture, religion interwoven into this day, and you'll be joined by a local expert before going on to the National History Museum. So if you're a history buff and a science lover, so lots of science lovers here, I imagine, this is a fascinating look at Morocco's prehistoric world. And it has some of the oldest remains of our human ancestors here as well. So you have everything from dinosaur bones to human bones. So there is an awful lot to be uncovered here. And it really shows the depth and the centuries old history for this beautiful country.
Just a little FYI on visiting the mosque. I know
Mm-hmm.
usually they ask women to cover their hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I was in Thailand last year, we visited some places and we had to do that. But they usually provide scarves right at the
Yeah, they
doorway.
usually do. My recommendation for traveling to a Muslim country or a religious country is always have one of those little pashminas or a scarf and just
Yes.
take it with you
Right.
everywhere because it can be a modesty cover. We are going to encourage, professional dress that's, at the knee or below the knee line because it is a very religious country. But those pashminas, they work in a multitude of different ways. They look wonderful with every outfit, but they
Yeah.
can become your scarf or your modesty cover as well. So that's a great point.
Mhm.
So the next day, day four, the professional members of the group here will have their first look at your career enrichments, and we'll be going to a local hospital or to a clinic, and you'll interact with professionals here in Rabat. Again, you are in the capital city of Morocco, so it's an urban setting here. So it'll be a large hospital that you'll be visiting, interacting with the allied healthcare workers, doctors and nurses, because Lorraine, they don't have a designated nurse practitioner role as such in Morocco. So we'll be meeting with a diverse population of healthcare professionals so that we can get a really good view of how healthcare is delivered in Morocco.
Right. And just like many other countries that are not that maybe third world countries, second world countries that don't have nurse practitioners as a role, a lot of times the nurses take on much more responsibility than our nurses do. Of course, here in the United States, we have specific roles, um, educationally designated roles, but the nurses, especially in rural areas, tend to do a lot more. Just as an aside, I have a colleague that I work with in urgent care. He is
Mm-hmm.
from Morocco,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he told me he's like, "Oh yeah, the nurses can suture like we do here in urgent care." I'm like, "Okay." So it's a different type of
It's a
thing.
different practice. And I know some of the challenges that they're facing in Morocco. I know there was a shortage of doctors in particular. So
Yes.
nurses
Yes.
are probably, taking on an extra weight of responsibility, especially in the urban setting. And that's probably a good conversation topic that you'll be talking about is how can that disparity kind of be bridged? How are they bridging that between the physician network and the nurse network? And, what is that shorthand kind of challenge look like and how are they overcoming that?
But even within the nursing profession, Morocco, at least this is just from my reading because I haven't been to Morocco yet, but they're trying to change the role of nursing, just like in the United States back in the day. Before we were doing master's and doctoral programs, a lot of nurses were trained from hospitals,
Mhm.
hospital-based training. Um, and so pretty much in Morocco, that's very similar. So they're trying to move it forward and advance education and advance nurses to masters and doctoral levels. It is part of the Morocco's healthcare vision.
Initiative.
I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah,
It'd be very interesting to learn about that also.
yeah.
And the guests, so we do, as Lorraine said earlier, we do encourage you to bring your travel companions, your partners, your spouses to come along and join you, as we have a separate itinerary for them. When you're in your professional meetings, they'll be having guided experiences to experience some of the cultural highlights that you may not be able to see, but through your guests and companions, they'll come back and share at the end of the day all of the additional wonderful things that they saw. So today you're going to go to the Royal Palace and see the raising of the flag. So again, with Rabat being the capital, there's ancient Roman history here, and you have the royal history. So this is Roman ruins that goes back way back to the 14th century. And now it's a sanctuary and a garden, and they have music events here and things like that. So it's the history of Rabat meets modern day. So our guests will be doing that and having a local lunch at a restaurant together as guests. So you have a full day exploring Rabat with your local guide. So on day 5, we're actually leaving Rabat to go inland. If you remember the map that we showed, we're going inland now to Fez via Meknes. And on your way, you're going to see these wonderful old Roman ruins and the mosaics. It's a really fabulous, it's about an hour away. So your journey time is about 2.5 hours. So we're stopping an hour along the way to experience this old, beautiful city of Meknes. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And I'm sure you'll come back, Lorraine, and tell me, no, Nicola, this is how you pronounce this. And so there is a stop along the way. And you'll also be stopping at Volubli, which is a 3rd century Roman ruins. So again, today is about transitioning from the ocean inland. So one thing I love about journeys like this, that sometimes the land element of it or the transfer element of it can be a little overwhelming, but there's so much value to the journeys on the road on this particular Morocco journey because the landscape changes, the culture changes. You're in an agricultural area now. So the roadside stalls with people selling their fruits and their wares. So you're starting to see old, traditional, different to the city. So I think there's a lot of value in that. And finally, you'll arrive into Fez later in the evening. And Fez is a medieval city. So it's a maze of terracotta, like the rooftops. You've probably seen the pictures, towering minarets, and a really fascinating hub. Like Fez is like the hub, like the heart almost of Morocco, and very, very traditional. So again, you'll be here in a hotel, the Hotel Namoradinades, and we've chosen that very purposefully. And you can have dinner on your own because the choices are absolutely endless in Fez. So we're now on day 6 and we're in Fez. So we're a little bit more rural. So we're going to be going to a university hospital. It's a teaching hospital. It's a tertiary hospital. So there's a lot of research here, international collaboration, and a lot of the population here, because it's one of the older towns, they probably practice traditional medicine. So Lorraine, this is something you'll be very familiar with, is that cultural leaning towards old traditional medicine, especially in areas where access to healthcare maybe isn't as prevalent. So tell us a little bit about that, not in Morocco necessarily, but we're going to learn in Morocco. But in Guyana, you probably had that growing up. I imagine a lot of people relying on traditional medicine.
Well, I grew up in the city, I have to say. And so we definitely had a public hospital as well as private hospitals, which is what I alluded to initially. Public
Mm-hmm.
hospitals free for everyone.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Private hospitals Where you're going to find there is probably better equipment, better staffing. That's for people who can afford it. So
Yeah,
the majority of the populace, so even though I grew up in the capital, Georgetown, the majority of the populace will go to the public hospital, and the private would be for people who could afford it. So this hospital we're talking about here, I'm assuming
it's
it's a government
public, yes, and
government hospital.
it's a learning hospital. So there is a lot of collaboration, but because it's a tertiary hospital, so they do refer out and they do specialize. But I imagine as the afternoon here is where we're going to be exploring Fez as a cultural afternoon, but that also can be a great opportunity for professional learning because you'll be in the Medinas where they have these little herbal pharmacies, going back centuries old, the traditions have been handed down. So they're not herbalists, they're pharmacies, right? So this is how a lot of people in Fez will access cheaper healthcare, for some of their minor ailments and keeping them healthy. So there's a real learning opportunity between modern day and very old traditional medicine today.
And as I was telling Nicola, same thing in Guyana and other third world countries. Pharmacies there, you can just go and purchase your antibiotic or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is you need. Unlike here in the United States where we have restrictions on licensure and prescriptions, it's a different kind of system.
Yeah,
Because I know some of the missions that I participated in, we used to take some antibiotics, which meant we could give a limited supply because we saw lots of patients. But understanding, and we tried to utilize medications that the local people could get at the
could get
pharmacy
access to. And I
because they
think
didn't
that'll be
need
something
it.
that comes up here for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So now on day 7, so we've done our 2 nights in the Fez area, and we're moving on to Marrakesh. Now this day is a long travel day, but it is broken up halfway through because today you're traveling through the Middle Atlas Mountains. So you've been to the coast, you've had the inland experience, and everything, the landscape changes again. So traditional Berber villages are going to be, something that you're going to see along the way. But we'll stop in the town of Beni Mellal, which is a big agricultural hub, orange groves, olive trees, and this is going to be a beautiful stop where we're going to have lunch. And think red-hued desert plains meets mountains kind of a thing. So Sedona-ish, I imagine, is really a good way to explain this. So yes, it is a long travel day to get to Marrakesh, but there's a stop along the way, and there'll be additional stops as well, whether they be comfort breaks or an opportunity to stop at small towns and villages along the way. So we will eventually arrive in Marrakesh late afternoon, where you can check into your hotel, and then there'll be an opportunity to have dinner.
And we travel it on the trip to India when we were traveling between cities. There were times when it was lengthy,
Yeah.
but as Nicholas said, we did some stops. We did rest stops as needed, and then there were some designated stops. We were able to come out, walk around a bit. The guides are invaluable. They
Yes.
know everything. Yeah, so it's very doable and pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and it's actually a beautiful way to see the country because there are so many different sides, shapes, and the topography changes so much in Morocco. It's a big country. So this is day 8, and this is another day of combined cultural and professional learning. So in the morning, the professional members of the group will again go to another local medical facility. So this is where you will talk again about the rural access to healthcare. So the Berber villages, the old traditional Berber lifestyle is in and around this area. So there'll be a lot of talk about rural access to healthcare. And in the accompanying guests that are with you, will have an opportunity to explore, the Medinas and wander the old Kasbahs and the Jewish quarter. So Marrakesh is a blend of so many cultures, so many, the history is very deep. And this is kind of the hub of the Medinas and everything. So they'll have a great time shopping for
Oh,
your
yeah.
people back home. So the colors are amazing. That's and the smells of all of the
Nice.
spices and everything. So
I'm sure you recognize some of those spices: curry, paprika,
yeah,
saffron,
and
cumin.
they
We
smell
all use
so
them
good.
here.
That's one thing I always bring back, no matter where I travel in the world. I always bring back some
Spices.
local spices. Yeah,
Yes, yes, I've done that myself.
yeah.
I was in Egypt and Thailand. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then the afternoon, the mid to late afternoon, you're going to have a cooking class with a chef. So you're going to go just a little outside of Marrakesh. So you're going to the Amazizi Valley. So
Yeah.
this is again like a Berber community. So very traditional ways of life here. The chef is very specialized in herbs and spices. So aromatic herbs, how to elevate your cooking.
Wow.
So you'll prepare your own meal here with Chef Tariq. And of course, you will enjoy that meal as your dinner for the evening. So this is great for bonding and learning new cooking styles. And again, one of the things I could spend the whole presentation talking about is Moroccan food.
Yeah.
And then the last day, day 9, is the last day to enjoy Marrakesh. So today you'll be with your local guide, again, doing some in the morning explorations of the Bahia Palace and the garden. So I'm talking quaint and chaotic, but in the best possible way. So the morning's going to be, these beautiful botanical gardens and the Bahia Palace. And then the afternoon is going into the souks and the traditional meeting places for merchants and markets and the snake charmers and musicians and all of those amazing things are going to come to life this afternoon. So the energy goes from serene to beautiful chaos. So this is a day of
Yeah.
very
Lots
different
of
energy.
pictures.
Yeah, lots and lots of pictures. And this evening
Absolutely.
you'll have your farewell dinner in a beautiful restaurant. So there'll be some local Moroccan entertainment here to bid you fond farewell and an opportunity for you to share your stories. And then the next day is time to say goodbye. So I'm sad already.
I know, I know.
So this is the day to say goodbye, and you'll head back to the United States. Your transfer is included if you're on the group flight, and your guide will take you back um, to the airport. So just a little bit about your impact, and you've talked about it, Lorraine. So the medical knowledge sharing is impact, right? So if we all have an opportunity to share our knowledge, exchange our ideas, the impact that you can have can be pretty profound. And I'm sure you've seen that in India and also in your medical missions, of course, but in India, where you were meeting your colleagues and your peers, that's
Mhm.
really important.
It is. And like I said, we are going to impart some of our knowledge to
Mm-hmm.
our Moroccan colleagues. Um, you know, with the A and P accreditation, we do have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyone out there who's traveling who thinks, hey, I have a great topic, reach out to me because I'm going to put the program together in terms of what we're doing professionally.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
great.
yes.
You
Yeah.
know, so there's, culturally responsible travel is something that Nanda Journey is very cognizant of. So we're
Mhm.
supporting local communities as we travel, and we try and keep your travel dollars as local as possible to have the most profound impact, not only on the country you're visiting, but the specific area that you're in each day. So that's a big part of your journey too. So if you're looking to expand your global healthcare perspectives, you want to engage in meaningful conversations, go outside of your comfort zone a little bit, learn some new things, but impart your knowledge. I think this is a great career enrichment opportunity for you to join Lorraine and your fellow colleagues.
And it's just a wonderful way to see another country if you've been thinking about it. But oh my gosh, it's so far. I don't know how to do this. This is all set up, um, and you'll get a good blend of the professional aspect as well as the cultural aspect.
Mhm.
So it's a vacation with a plus.
Yeah.
No, that's how I look at
It's
it.
true. It's true. But I mean, there is that element to it. It's a nice, for people that are traveling solo too, maybe they don't have a
Yes,
travel partner.
yes.
The one thing that these journeys really lend themselves to is solo travelers, because you're going to make friends on that welcome dinner. You're going to make friends at the airport before you even travel. We'll have
Exactly.
orientation sessions before you leave. So nobody will feel like they're by themselves. You're part of a beautiful family that I refer to as the Nanda family these days, because that's how we approach this. We want you to feel comfortable that you're part of something bigger and you're never going to be alone. So if you feel called to this journey, let's talk a little bit about how you can register. We were super overwhelmed today. I think we have over 40 people joining us this evening, so I'm so appreciative of that. But we are limiting the journey to 20 participants because we want it to be an intimate experience. So that includes guests. So we do encourage early enrollment if you would like to join Lorraine. The cost for the program is $5,999, and that does include the flights from New York City area airport. If you wanted to book your own flights, there would be a $1,200 credit back to you if you wanted to book your own flights from your home airport. But we are here to assist you with all of that planning. The deposit when you register to secure your spot is $500. That is refundable, less than $95 fee until June 3rd. So if you are thinking this is for you and you really want to go, it's a good opportunity for you to register. And there is still that opportunity to say no up until June 3rd for a full refund, less than $95 fee. And for those of you that are able to scan the QR code on the screen today, that would take you to the registration page. But of course, we'll provide that in our follow-up with you and let you know where you should register. But if you go to www.nandajourneys.com, you will see Lorraine's journey featured on our homepage. So again, it's $5,999, including your flights. If you're traveling as a solo person and want your own single room, there is an additional single supplement fee of $1,299. And Yolanda, I see that you have a question. We're almost there for questions. Just give me 1 second and we're definitely going to come to you. So your journey, your way. If you want to arrive early, stay late, experience more of Morocco, upgrade your flights, or any of those things, Nanda Journeys is here to assist you with that. We will also provide an opportunity for you to insure your trip, which is highly encouraged. You do not have to take our recommended insurance, but we do, as healthcare professionals, you know that things can go wrong during travel or during everyday life. So we do encourage that.
I highly encourage it. I have traveled quite a bit, and I always buy travel insurance,
Yeah.
which I had to use once many years ago. So it really protects the money that you're spending in the event of something or unforeseen happening.
For sure. We always recommend it. And I appreciate everybody's questions. And I'm going to get to those now. And if there are additional ones, please drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. And I know somebody's here and I don't see your name, but you traveled to Vietnam and Cambodia. And you can join as a guest. If you're retired and you want to do the guest program, you're welcome to do that. So that's an opportunity for you. And yes, Yolanda, please bring along your spouse. They can participate as a guest. The cost for spouses and participants is the same. And you have different activities when the professional members are in their meetings. And the weather at that time of the year, so it'll still be warm. I would say that you're likely to experience a slight cooling on the coast, but it's still going to be warm. So mid 70s to 80s, likely to be dry at that time of the year too. So you may just be a touch warmer, but the mornings and the evenings are going to start to feel a little cooler. So you're in the southern hemisphere, so they're going into their spring, so they're still going to be, a little bit cooler on that western coast there.
So your pashminas would be good.
Your pashminas will
Wrap up.
definitely be
Yeah.
good. And English is very much widely spoken there. And the itinerary, yes, absolutely. We'll send the itinerary. Everybody that registered today will send a recording of the webinar with the registration to link to book and also with the itinerary details. So thank you for those wonderful questions. And there will be an opportunity for you to convert money. We don't recommend that you take any currency changed. USD is acceptable in certain areas, and for tipping, your US dollars would be acceptable to tip. The only tip that we ask you to do is your guide and your driver. Otherwise, the tips have been included as part of your participation fee.
And just before you move off with tips, just
Mhm.
my experience in India, what we did, the tour leader and I will do the same thing. We all just decided on an amount that we were going to give the respect, drivers, etc.
Yeah.
And we pulled it together and then we gave it to him. So it's not like everybody has to dole out money. We're going to do it as a group.
As a collective. I like that. Some leaders do it differently. That's my personal preference. That's how I do it when I lead my groups. And I think it's a nice way to finish at the end. And we'll provide recommendations to people for the tipping amount. So you don't have to worry about offending people or do I do this or do I not do this? All of
Right.
that will be provided as guidance to you. So let's see.
The question about converting money, and Nicholas saying not to bring money, I have found, and probably maybe in the Atlantic coast when we were in Casablanca, that there are ATMs.
Mm-hmm.
I know I used it a lot when I was in Thailand and I think in Egypt. Just if you needed to get local currency, you could use, your bank
Exactly.
card at an ATM.
Yep.
It's safer that way, I think.
And then
Years ago, you travel to a country, and I used to do this. I would change money, and I'm there. And I
traveler's
felt
checks
that I
and
don't need to do that. And especially since when everything is organized. So getting to the airport in Morocco, you're not looking for a taxi that you need money to give a taxi. We have our transportation set and everything. So money that you're going to need is basically the times that you're having dinner on your own, and of course when you're in the
the
Medinas and
souks and the Medinas for
the
sure.
yeah, and when
Your
you want to buy
shopping
those
money.
beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful
Yeah.
pieces of clothing.
Yeah. And Carol asked immunizations and malaria prophylaxis needed. There are no specific immunizations required. But as you all know, as healthcare professionals, it's really important to be up to date with all of your immunizations and to have a conversation with your own personal physician
Okay.
about
Let me just
immunizations.
tell you what makes sense to do, everyone here, because I just um, the area that we're going to. We've already specified the towns. It's in the itinerary. Everyone can go on the CDC website, and as practitioners with patients who travel, I'm sure you've done this a lot. I've done this numerous times. So you go on the CDC website for healthcare professionals, you put in the country, which is Morocco, and then the CDC will answer those questions. Because sometimes, depending on the area that you're in, there might be and I'm not talking about Morocco, just in general.
Mhm.
There might be certain areas where, let's say, for example, malaria might be prevalent, so the recommendation is going to be this. So I would highly suggest, so you have a clearer understanding, to go on a CDC website and you can find that information. But usually it's basic things, making sure you have your routine vaccines, your Hep B, your Hep A, um, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Yolanda asks, is there a payment plan and when is the balance due? Yes, the $500 deposit secures your spot. And then there's a payment plan. So we have an installment plan that we've established. So it's 3 payments, but we're very flexible with that. So if you wanted to break your payments up into more payments, you just need to let us know. We just ask that the final balance be fully paid at 60 days prior to you traveling. But there is a payment plan already established. Just let us know if you need any more flexibility with that. And
Well, someone asked about roommate.
Yes, about the roommate.
Right.
So if you're traveling solo and you don't have a roommate but you would like one, register as a shared, you would like a shared room, and we'll do our best to partner with you with a roommate. If it's 60 days prior to travel, there isn't somebody else that is looking for a roommate, the single room supplement would become payable at that time. But on most journeys, we tend to be able to pair people up. It's rare that we have to say, I'm sorry, we don't have somebody for you. So register as a shared person and we'll do our best to find somebody.
So two other questions. If there's
Thank you for these questions, everybody.
really, they're great. There's a question about children's rates.
Yeah, let's see, I can see that. I see the question about, can we register $500 and pay the balance later? Yes, absolutely, through the
Answer
installment
that.
plan.
Wants to know if there's an
And the
email.
amount is the same regardless, no matter the age. Yes. So I'm sorry, I don't see your name associated with that question, but please reach out to info@nandajourneys.com or call the number on the screen, 888-747-7501. We can answer any and all questions, and that was a question as well that somebody has. If you don't have a question you want to put here live, you want to talk to us individually, that email address and that number, I'll make myself available to talk to anybody. My specific extension is extension 700. So we can chat tomorrow, over the coming days. But yeah, let me know. We're here to help, basically. Remember, we're family. So that's really how we approach the conversation.
Right. And if it's something that you feel that you want my input on, Nicola will be very happy to pass on that information to you. Like
Absolutely.
how to get hold of me.
Mhm.
Uh, there's
100%. We're here as a team. So yeah, if you have questions, then we're both here.
one
And
other question
Davika,
about a triple room that I
yeah,
don't
the
know.
triple room, we can certainly ask if there is a triple room option for you. Um, Hotels tend to be a little bit smaller because we're in a country that has old buildings. So we can certainly ask, do know that it may be a little tight. And the hotels tend not to be overly generous with that discount for the third person, but we will definitely let you know what that discount might be for having a third person in a room. Thank you for these questions, everybody. We really appreciate it. And yes, we typically do another Zoom session like this with all of the registered participants. So we can talk about, planning, and Deborah, my colleague, will be talking to you many times between now and you traveling to prepare you. She has a really good plan on which pieces of information we need to focus on, whether that be the flights or your bios or your health form or the professional delegation, how is it forming? And as Lorraine said, she'll be looking for a couple of people to do presentations, and all of the professional dynamics will come together as the delegation forms as well, because your bios and your learning objectives, of course, can be
Right.
taken into consideration for the final itinerary and the final professional meeting. So that's another great question.
I believe the names of the hotels are listed on the itinerary.
Yes, Yolanda, they are.
Someone
And there's
asked about that.
links, there's links to the names of the hotels that will take you to their website so you can see the specific hotels. On occasion they get changed, but of course we already have that plan well in advance. But if there is a change, it'll always be of the similar or higher standard. But we don't anticipate that happening, but just a caveat that in our travel world, these things can happen on occasion. You're welcome. Well, I'm cognizant of people's time and so appreciative of everybody's questions. And again, so many new names that I'm seeing here. So if you have curiosity, questions, feel free to reach out to Lorraine or myself. The number on the screen is the number, but I will follow up in a personal email to all of you that attended here tonight with those links, with the itinerary and the registration. And Lorraine, I'll invite you to close with any wise words for everybody here tonight. What would you like them to be left with this evening?
Oh my gosh, do I have wise words? This is put on your travel hat. I just love traveling so much, and to me, this is a safe way to meet with professionals like yourself, meet other people, and then just learn about a fascinating culture. Really,
Wise
I
words indeed. Wise
I don't
words
know how wise
indeed.
they are, but I that is just my mantra because I like traveling so much. And
Oh, that's
yeah,
great. Well, we really appreciate you being here, Lorraine. Thank you for all the
yes,
hard work you've put into in collaborating with us to design this wonderful program. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. We look forward to your questions and we look forward to you registering to join Lorraine in Morocco. So thank you and good night
thank
to
you, everyone.
everybody.
Okay.